Hello everybody, welcome to my workshop. My name is Caden. Today I'm going to be heat treating and hopefully finishing out the blade of the sword that I've been working on. So you can hear behind me I've got the forge running. First step is going to be running some normalization cycles on it to basically get the grain of the steel exactly as I want it before we go in and quench the steel. Forge is already heating up, so I'm going to get this sword in there and we're going to get started. So I ran the first normalizing cycle and it seemed to go well. The blade developed a warp and I think it was because it was leaning against one of the walls. So this time I'm just going to hang it in it. I'm going to hold it the whole time. But we're going to run a second normalizing cycle. I've turned the temperature way down, so this should refine the grain a little bit. If I don't see any problems this time, we'll go in for the quench on the next one. If I do see problems, then we'll do another normalizing cycle until we don't see problems. So I'm going to do that now. So after quenching the sword, we have a blade that is fully intact, which is really nice. I did some tests. Right down the bottom here is below 50. The guard is going to cover some of that, and I'm not too worried about this little last inch. Everywhere from there up is above 50. You kind of see some of these little scratches at the edge. Those were from hardness files, so I scratched it with 50 and 55. It seems to be around 55 pretty much for the entire blade. And I'm happy with that. For a sword, it's more than enough. So the next step is going to be cleaning back some of the color, and we're going to give this a torch temper. One thing that happened in the quench, which is unfortunate, is there is a big warp in the blade. Luckily, it's just a single dimension warp, so it's just kind of a gentle curve that curves off one way, which luckily it's the easiest kind of warp to fix. But in the temper, I'm going to do one temper first, just to get the whole blade a little bit softer, a little bit more ductile. Then I'm going to do a second temper, and I'm going to start trying to flex the blade back in the opposite direction to correct that warp. So I'll get doing that now. It is the next day. I did a quick flash temper on it. It's a beautiful golden color now, and the flex is really good. Like, it doesn't, it's kind of scary, but it flexes and it returns to the, albeit warped shape that it was. My next step is going to be straightening it, and I'm going to do that by kind of clamping one part of it in the vise, heating it up with a torch, having some water nearby so I can cool it down if I need to, and sort of bending it back and forth, eyeing down the blade just to make sure everything's as straight as I can get it. Once it's straight, we're going to head on to the grinder, grind the finish bevels onto it, get the fuller all cleaned up, get the bevels fully down to an edge, and then we'll be hand sanding, which will be super fun because there's a lot of blade to hand sand. So I'm going to get on to straightening it, and then I will see you after that. The blade is now straight within what I think I should be able to grind. My next step is to put the final grinds on. So I'm going to put on a finer belt. I'm going to sort of convex the edge so I've got a nice apple seed edge. We're going to regrind in the fuller, try to straighten everything up. The tidier I can get it off the grinder, the better, because I'm going to be hand sanding this whole thing. And if your grinds are wobbly, that's way more to hand sand out. So we're going to have to do a lot of very careful, very precise grinding. Hopefully we'll be able to get it done with not too many little slip-ups. That's the next step. I'm going to pop my respirator on and I'll get started on the grinding. So now that the sword is straight, the edges are convexed, it's actually sort of sharp already, which is good. I'm going to start hand sanding it. The first part of the hand sanding is going to be doing the fuller. So I've got a little wheel off the grinder. I'm going to be wrapping it in some sandpaper. Just going to be doing this for about, I don't know, 30 hours. Have fun watching this. It's going to be a very entertaining video. It is the next day from the last clip. I spent about 5 hours yesterday hand sanding the fuller. It's now up to 240 grit. I have to get it up to 400, so I'm going to start on the 400 grit. Once I'm done with the fuller, I'm going to work on the bevels. We're going to get the bevels up to 400 grit, and then the sword blade will be basically done. So I'm going to get started on the 400 grit in the fullers. Once that's done, I'll switch over to the bevels. So after about 2.5 days, the sword is now fully hand sanded, ready to have a guard and handle made for it. In the next video, I'm going to be starting on the handle component, so starting with the guard, working my way down. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching this big old hand sanding compilation. Really appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Bye.